Hello everyone, this is the fifth video of class 10th history chapter Nationalism in India. Now let's start the new topic, how participants saw the movement. Dear children, there were various social groups like rich and poor peasants, business class, women, etc. who participated in the civil disobedience movement. Now let's study why did they join the movement, what were their ideals and what did Swaraj mean to them. Now, why did the rich peasants participate in the civil disobedience movement of 1930? We've already studied that due to Great Economic Depression of 1929, agricultural prices were falling, and as a result, the income of farmers, peasants reduced. So they were not able to pay the revenue to the government, and they wanted government to reduce the revenue demand. But the government was reluctant to do so. As a result, the peasants got very angry and the rich peasants became enthusiastic supporters of the civil disobedience movement. Dear children, for the rich peasants, Swaraj did not mean self rule. It meant a struggle against high revenues. But they were deeply disappointed when the civil disobedience movement was called off in 1931 without the revenue rates being revised. So, when the movement was restarted in 1932, they were not interested in participating. Now, why did the poor peasants participate in the CDM? Many of the poor peasants worked like small tenants. Tenants are those people who pays rent to use somebody else's land. So tenants took the land from landlord for cultivation and they paid rent to the landlord. But as the trade depression was going on and agricultural prices were falling, so their cash income also decreased and small tenants were not able to pay their rent to the landlord. So they wanted the unpaid rent to the landlord to be remitted. That means they wanted the unpaid rent to be forgiven. And they also wanted a reduction in revenue. So they joined a variety of radical movements led by socialists and communists. Dear children, despite the fact that poor peasants participated in the CDM, but the relationship between poor peasants and the Congress remained uncertain because Congress was not willing to support no rent campaign of the poor peasants at most of the places because doing so would mean rich peasants will become upset as rich peasants had only given their land to the poor peasants on rent and no rent would mean their income would decline. Now, why did the business class and industrialist class participate in the CDM of 1930? During the First World War, Indian business class made huge profits and they were willing to expand their business. But there were many colonial policies which were not allowing business activities to flourish. So, Indian industrialists and businessmen had two demands. They wanted protection against imports of foreign goods and they wanted such a rupee sterling foreign exchange ratio that will discourage imports so that they can sell their produced goods within India easily. Now, to organize the business class, businessmen formed two organizations. First one is Indian Industrial and Commercial Congress in 1920 and the Federation of Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industries in 1927. The industrialists supported the civil disobedience movement enthusiastically when it was first launched and they even gave financial assistance for it and they refused to buy or sell imported goods. But dear children, when the CDM was relaunched in 1932, business class was no longer enthusiastic to participate. Let's see the reasons. First of all, after the failure of Round Table Conference, business groups lost their interest because they thought that these movements are not helping at all. Secondly, they were upset about the spread of militant activities. They thought the launch of CDM again will lead to violence. Then they were also worried about the prolonged disruption of their business. They couldn't let their profits go down. And moreover, they were also upset about the growing influence of socialism amongst the younger members of Congress. Socialism is a theory according to which all the means of production, all the resources, industries, everything in an economy is owned and controlled by the government. So, business class did not want that to happen. But dear children, The industrial workers did not participate largely in the civil disobedience movement because the industrial class, that means those businessmen who were employing these industrial workers, were supporting the Congress. So workers always believed that this business class is against them, and Congress was not willing to support the workers and their demands in the CDM because doing so will upset the business class, as generally the workers demand higher wages and industrialists would not want that. And industrialists were providing finance for the movement. So Congress could not make them unhappy by supporting the demands of industrial workers. But despite their issues, many industrial workers still participated in the CDM. Many industrial workers were against low wages and poor working conditions, so they adopted some of the Gandhian ideas to participate in CDM, like they boycotted foreign goods. Then there were strikes organized by railway workers and dock workers, and thousands of workers in Chota Nagpur tin mines wore Gandhian caps and participated in protest rallies and boycott campaigns. Dear children, a very interesting fact of civil disobedience movement was that for the first time women participated in large numbers. They participated in salt march in thousands of them came out of their home and participated. They manufactured salt, they picketed foreign cloth and liquor shops. Many of them even went to jail. And most of these women in both urban and rural areas came from rich families, and moved by Gandhiji's call, they felt that serving the nation is their sacred duty. But their increased role did not bring any large change in the society. And Gandhiji was also of the view that women should look after their home, they should be good mothers and good housewives. And the Congress leaders, they also wanted only symbolic presence of women in the movement. Rather, for a long time, they did not give any position of authority to women within the organization. Thank you so much, everyone. Do not forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel.